you think? Good. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday morning, February 12th, 2020, and I'm headed into work for the day. Last night, one of my Facebook friends, I've actually never met this guy in person. One of my Facebook friends made a post and said, I don't understand the whole thing with owning a house. He's like, it's just not worth it. It's just better to rent, blah, blah, blah. So his comments just blew up and everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? And, I'm like, what happened? And, I guess, he's complaining about his house that's from 1995. He's only been in it for a couple years, maybe. He's complaining that his house needed a furnace and a washer and dryer and just all kinds of different stuff. And, going into winter, he put up his sports car for sale briefly. And then he just, last couple weeks ago, was selling his camera gear for $1,000. And then selling his vlogging setup for $500. And I'm like, dude, what is going on? And he's just like, well, it's just, he's like, my house is only we paid $172,000 for it. I have a 3-point-something% interest rate. So over the course of 30 years, I'm going to pay, $300 and something thousand for a house that's only worth $200,000. It's just not worth it and blah, blah, blah. And when something breaks, I can, when I rent, I can just call someone and it's just fixed. I don't have to deal with this shit. And I'm like, wow, dude. I'm like, don't you have 3 new car payments? I'm like, there's other reasons that you're broke, dude. What are you doing? So he bought, a new Mustang. And then, this was, last year. And then he, modified it and did all this shit to it. And then after doing all this work to it, he got rid of it and upgraded to a Ford Shelby GT350. I looked up those things and used the one he bought was in the upper $50,000. I think he listed his for $57,000 when he was going to sell it. And I'm just like, dude, bruh. I'm like, that's a $1,500 or more per month car payment. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. And then he's talking about doing all this work to it and modifying it and doing all this shit. And I'm like, dude, what are you fucking doing, man? This is a guy that ever since I've known him, he buys something new, full price, and then shortly thereafter sells it used, deeply discounted because it's used. And I'm like, dude, that cars are the worst investment ever, right? Yeah, but, just, even if I lost all the cars, just having a house, that's a jail. That's just a house. That's not living life. I'm like, wow, dude. Okay, so you're just gonna fucking YOLO it, and you're 40 years old. So I'm just like, you okay, bro? You got me really, really triggered over all this stuff. I'm like, dude, a house is literally the best investment you can have. Yeah, you're not gonna double your money on the cost of the house, but I told him, I'm like, dude, what would your house that you have now would have cost? What would that have cost 30 years ago? So what do you think that'll be worth in 30 years from now? Hello? He just doesn't get it. I mean, I understand his argument of I don't want to have to deal with all this work. He said, I had to buy all these landscaping tools and stuff and do this and do that and all this shit. I'm like, dude, that's a one-time cost or whatever. You buy it and do all that stuff and then you're done. He's like, yeah, but it's so much work to do all this and do that and do that. I'm like, basically, he's saying he's fucking lazy. And then he made a comment and he said, I fix cars, not houses. And I'm like, wow, dude, you don't even fucking do that. You don't even fix cars. He buys a part, a bolt-on part, fucking bolts it on, takes it to the tuner and pays the tuner. He was bitching that he had to pay somebody $1,000 to install a air conditioner or furnace or something. I don't know. I'm like, yeah? Okay, well, so you would rather pay a tuner $1,000 to, tune your car after you put a fucking muffler on it. Okay. Well, I couldn't imagine what his wife thinks. I don't know. I know his wife's a hairdresser, but hairdressers, I mean, they're basically entrepreneurs. They run their own fucking businesses. So, like, I don't know what the fuck he's doing, but I just was like, whoa, dude. So what it comes down to, he wants to be a lazy ass, not have to do anything, and then think that he can, I told him, like, he's like, well, we're all going to be living in retirement homes anyway, and my grandma's retirement home costs $7K a month, so, even if I paid off this house by the time I'm retired, having $200,000 asset wouldn't go very far. I'm like, well, it'd go further than fucking, if you didn't have that. Like, what? He's just not thinking, dude. Like, you don't need a nursing home if you own your own house. You can pay for somebody to live with you. Pay him 25, 30 grand. That's, what, 2 to 3 grand a month. They can wait on you. Have literally like a butler. Fucking crazy, dude, right? I've never heard somebody that's younger say this sort of stuff. I'm like, dude. And then, of course, everyone else, all of his other friends are like, dude, they're like, I wish I would have not rented for 17 years. They're like, I would have had 100 grand, into a house payment or whatever. And, like, he's just not listening. It's like, wow. All right, so just change of pace. But I'm heading into work. I know this video quality is terrible. I can see the sun hitting the lens. I have the stock lens cap that's already covered in dust and shit, so sorry. I don't know. I still need to figure out something to do with this camera lens situation. But yesterday, I think I mentioned it. Yesterday during my training, I pulled up Tinkercad and modified the Super Rose flower portion, and I basically added a new locking mechanism. So I mentioned it before, but what I don't like is when I print the rose part, the flower part, with supports, like the setting supports, it makes supports all the way up the whole flower instead of just like the base. And I don't want that. It makes it like look worse. Even when you break off all the supports, there's like strings and pieces and shit like kind of hanging off. So I basically created a model, or modified the original model. So I took the flower, added my new locking lug mechanism, and then I made my own supports. I basically just took 1mm cylinders and extended it up to create like a support system that hopefully should be able to just pop right off, break right off. So I kicked that off yesterday, and it was like a 6 or 7 hour print. So I'm waiting for that to complete, or I was waiting yesterday. It should be done by now. Excuse me. So once that's done, I'll check it out, see what I think, and go from there. And what I'll have to do next is modify the stem portion and print that in green. So I still have green. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just hope it fits or whatever. But training went well yesterday. I'm really looking forward to it. There's some really cool, badass features and shit that you can do in Azure. But yeah, so that's it. Not really have too much free time at work because of this Azure project and stuff. So today's Wednesday. Tomorrow I think there's more training and then a test potentially, and then Friday I'll be doing catch up from not working all week. So I gotta install some hardware and do some other different things. But yeah, so stay tuned.